Okay, I'm going to be refuting the claim from David that the three strikes law fails to efficiently deter the rate of crime. The first secondary claim that I will discuss is that he states that the three strikes law fails to scare offenders into living a life free of crime. And I believe that the three strikes law does exactly what it is made to do. First of all, the best way to discourage someone from doing a certain crime is to let them know that they will go to jail for at least 25 years if they are convicted. And most of the criminals are not ignorant to the law, and they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. And in 2004, out of all the people convicted, 35,236 people were convicted for their second strike, and only about 7,574 people were convicted for a third strike. So this shows that almost 30,000 people less were convicted for a third strike rather than a second strike, showing that people are being scared off by this law. And the next thing David states is that 70% of the second and third strike offenders were caught for nonviolent crimes, where I did research from the legal analyst's office, and they showed that only 56% of offenders were convicted of nonviolent crimes, and moreover, for third strikers, 54% were actually convicted for violent crimes. And should only nonviolent crimes be considered for harsh punishment? Because there can be crimes that can harm people in other ways than just physical injury and things of that sort, like stealing people's money or identity, things like that. And he also states that the third strike law can be any offense, whether it is murder or petty theft. That third strike leads to an inevitable 25 to life prison sentence regardless of the circumstances. He tries to infer that people are getting put in jail for 25 to life for stealing things such as TVs or pizzas and stuff like that, where in fact the media actually distorts the true effectiveness of the law by showing trivial cases. They like to show the few people who are actually being affected by going to jail for crimes that are such as petty theft for 25 to life, when the majority are actually being charged for more hazardous crimes. The legal analyst office showed that only about 6% of people convicted for their second or third strike were petty theft, and for the third strike, there was only about a little over 3% that were convicted for petty theft. And out of 7,574 people that were convicted for their third strike, only about 356 were actually convicted for petty theft. Also, many judges exercise judicial discretion in many cases that are eligible for a third strike. Jennifer Walsh of the San Mateo County Times stated that a survey of California district attorneys revealed that prosecutors in urban jurisdictions use discretion in approximately 20 to 40% of eligible cases, and that nearly 75% of respondents indicated that they would use discretion in cases involving a minor or current offense. An evaluation of judicial discretion exercised in San Diego County found that judges exercise discretion in 29% of eligible cases for the three strikes law, and that they were also 100% more likely to use discretion if the triggering offense was minor. Moreover, judges were more likely to strike a prior strike if the defendant had no history of violence and no history of weapons possession or weapons use. This is showing that judges see that many people shouldn't be put in jail for minor offenses such as petty theft, and they are actually doing their part in trying to lessen their terms. And another one of his claims was that the three strikes law is greatly increasing expenditures required to house the prisoners to the point where no longer efficient to keep them detained for a sentence. First, he stated, or one of the things he stated about this is that in the mid-1970s, California was jailing 20,000 offenders, and today that we have about 168,000 inmates. And he does not take into consideration the overall population has increased dramatically. And in the mid-1970s, California had a population of around 20 million people, and now it has around 37 million people. And when the population increases, the amount of people who break the law will increase. And in fact, the crime rate has gone down since this time. He also stated that it costs $49,300 to incarcerate one person for a year. And I looked up what the Associated Press had to say about this, and they said that per year, a prison inmate it costs about $29,000. So it's about $20,000 less than what he stated. In conclusion, the three strikes law is more efficient than David made it seem. It does deter second strike offenders from committing more crimes, and it gets the majority of the people it's intended for. It is effectively removing career criminals from the public. Thank you.
All right, well, I thought you set up the structure pretty clearly at the beginning, but it didn't seem like you were consistent about following it. And once you started presenting the evidence on your claims, the evidence sort of ran together, and the secondary claims get a little bit lost. But you did a good job on developing the evidence. Some of the differences seem to be pretty slight. 60% versus 54%, 29,000 versus 39,000. I'm not sure how important those points are in the total costs, and you need to give us a little bit more comparison on that. But I did think that you had good information about the third strike, second and third strikes, what the percentages were, how they'd gone down, suggesting that there is some impact there, for instance, on the deterrence issue. The argument about the judge and lawyer and prosecutor discretion, I think, does mitigate some of the potential perceived negative consequences. But again, is that responsive to one of his particular points, or is that just a general response on that issue? I think it needed to be a little bit sharper. The population growth issue is okay as a way of mitigating that, although the total numbers still don't seem to match up, and I'm not sure how much you get from that particular argument. There might be another way of addressing it, and I think the argument about the crime rate going down needs to be developed a lot more, because that's the primary measure of its effectiveness more than anything else. And that's the one thing that I think was underdeveloped in your presentation. All right.